Welcome to the weekday Q&A with your host, Ryan Kennedy, where I answer questions submitted by our listeners like yourself. These short daily episodes cover a wide variety of topics to help bring you strategies, tools, and insights to optimize your health and better your life. Now on to today's episode. Hey everyone, welcome back to the show. This is your host, Ryan Kennedy. Today's question is about coffee, most people's favorite morning beverage. So the question is, coffee, should I drink it black or add some healthy fats? And I get this question quite frequently because there are benefits and also downsides to both routes. And with the explosion of bulletproof style coffee, adding grass-fed butter and MCT oil, it's a fair thing for people to wonder what's going to be the right choice for you and, kind of weighing the pros and cons of both options. So as with most choices regarding your health, it really does depend on context. So here would be some situations where adding fats to your morning cup of joe would be appropriate. Firstly, if you're sensitive to caffeine, because coffee slows the absorption of fats, healthy fats, slow digestion, they're going to slow the absorption of that caffeine and give you a more steady caffeine rise rather than kind of a shot to the system when you drink it black. So if you do have sensitivities to caffeine, you're probably better off not drinking coffee at all and going with an herbal tea that's lower in caffeine, or maybe not having any caffeine at all. But if you find yourself where you do well with a small amount, you just kind of get overly stimulated or overly jittery. If you start to consume too much, then that's where healthy fats can come into play. Another scenario where added fats to your morning coffee would be appropriate would be if you're skipping breakfast and fasting throughout the morning. This is a big one because if you're trying just to run on black coffee or plain tea with no calories throughout the whole course of the morning, you're going to get some benefits from a autophagy standpoint, which is more, cellular cleanup, from a gut health standpoint, but it's going to be at the detriment of your hormones because that's going to cause this big rise in norepinephrine, which is part of the reason why you feel so good and energized and focused because you're running on adrenaline. Norepinephrine is adrenaline in the body. And so this is a great hormetic stressor in the right context, sprinkled in throughout your week. If you're doing this 7 days a week, especially women, I find they run into a lot of trouble if they're not having any fat or protein until, 11 a.m. or noon, and they're going through usually the most busy active part of our days is in the first half of our day. That's when we really need proper nutrition. So if you decide you're going to skip breakfast for convenience sake, for other reasons, adding some healthy fats to your morning joe would be a good idea because it's going to give your brain and body some fuel to run off of so you're not spiking your adrenaline quite as much. Another thing to consider is whether fat loss is one of your primary goals. If you're adding fats to your morning coffee, you will slow down fat burning in the body because your body's going to utilize the fatty acids that you added to the coffee. Now, if fat loss is a big goal of yours, I talk in other videos and other podcast episodes about how coupling coffee in a fasted state, aka in the morning right when you wake up, or tea for that matter, but caffeine really helps to accelerate this fat burning effect with movement. So you're adding movement to the equation that's going to actually really accelerate lipolysis, which is fat burning. And so fat loss is not one of your primary goals. If you're more of a slender body type or you're at a healthy body weight, adding fats to your coffee may be a good idea. And last but not least, adding healthy fats like grass-fed butter or coconut oil to your coffee is an excellent idea if it is a replacement for the harmful creamers or additives that most people normally add to their coffee. So if you're substituting your coffee mate or some sort of other sucrose-based, dairy-based creamer that's really not good for you by any means with all sorts of preservatives and artificial flavoring agents, and you're substituting that for some grass-fed butter or organic coconut oil or MCT oil, that's a great swap in the right direction and a huge benefit because you're cutting out something bad for something that's much better for you. So those are all reasons where it would be most appropriate. And honestly, grass-fed butter or ghee, if you're more sensitive to dairy, ghee might be a better bet. Coconut oil, cacao butter, MCT oil, these are all exponentially better than most things people add to their coffee, like sugar and a lot of these other really processed, bastardized dairy, essentially. So if you're consuming black coffee with no fats in it, I would couple it with movement, like going for a walk outside in the sunshine, going for a bike ride, doing a workout. Since I find if you have black coffee without any movement and without any healthy fats, it does cause a big spike in blood sugar and can lead to an energy crash later in the day, which is one of the many reasons I personally prefer herbal tea over coffee, my favorite one being yerba mate. So those are some reasons why adding fat to your coffee would benefit you, some context into where would be appropriate versus not appropriate, but for most people, it is going to be a benefit. Now, if you are having breakfast earlier in the day, if you are going to just be doing some movement with that coffee and then not fasting throughout the morning, but having breakfast at 8 or 9 a.m., then you might want to drink it black, especially if weight loss is one of your primary goals and your hormones are not all out of whack and your adrenal function is good. That's going to be a good solution for you there. So leave any questions you have in the comments below. As always, you could submit your own question for these daily videos. I really enjoy doing these, guys, and I plan to continue. So keep the good questions coming, and I will keep my responses coming. Thanks for watching. Thank you so much for tuning into today's episode. If you found it helpful, please share it along to anyone else you believe it can serve. You can submit your own question to be answered on the show by going to ryankennedyhealth.com/podcast. Be sure to subscribe and leave a review for the show. Your feedback helps to support me on my mission to positively impact as many people as possible with this information. Please note, the information depicted in this episode is purely for informational purposes only. Please consult your healthcare professional before making any changes to your lifestyle or routine.